common translation for utu is revenge. And that's what a lot of people think about. They think about revenge. And I believe that thought shapes a broad understanding of the Māori world and therefore Māori people. They think about eye for an eye, but that's not actually what utu means. It's bigger than that. It's about balance. It's more than just a word, it's a worldview. And if you misunderstand it, you misunderstand a big part of how traditional Māori society works. Kia ora, nau mai ki te haringa. Welcome back to the Fleeing Ignorance podcast. Today we're talking about utu. What it really means, where it comes from, and how it still shows up today. Whether you realise it or not. To be clear, I'm not speaking from a place of expertise. I don't ever remember being sat down on the marae and talked about it. So most of my information I'm getting here is from research, online research, but that's the point of this podcast. Learning together, skimming the surface, so we can flee ignorance. So what is utu really? Let's break it down. Utu is about restoring balance. And that's it at its core. If something happens, good or bad, utu is responsible for bringing things back into balance. That's where people get it wrong, because they only focus on one side of it. Yeah, utu can involve retaliation, but it can also be positive. If someone shows you hospitality, you return it. If someone gives you something, you give it back. That's utu too. It's not about punishment, it's about restoring what has been disturbed. And once you understand that, the whole concept starts to make sense. Now, if we look at history, utu played a big role in how society functioned. And yeah, sometimes it did lead to conflict. If a tribe was wronged, whether it was land taken, an insult, or someone killed, there would be a response. But it wasn't random violence. It wasn't chaos. It was understood. There were expectations, there were limits. The goal wasn't just to destroy, it was to restore balance. And once that balance was restored, things could settle down again. On the other side of it, utu also showed up in peaceful ways. Chiefs would exchange gifts, tonga, not about being generous, but to build relationships. You give something of value, and in time, it's returned. That creates connection. It creates multiple respect. That's utu working in a positive way. It's not just about a conflict, it's about maintaining balance across everything. One of the reasons people think utu means revenge is because of how it was translated and explained over time. When early Europeans tried to understand Māori concepts, they often simplified them. They got utu and reduced it to revenge or payback. And if you think about it, there was incentive to having that misunderstanding, right? If you believe these people's worldview is just a tit for tat and will ultimately lead to them wiping each other out, that's a justifiable reason to impose Crown law. Obviously, that's not the case of what it really is. Which doesn't fully capture what utu is, because that definition misleads the balance. The bigger system behind it, it's not just reacting, it's restoring. I'm going to jump over to Te Aka and have a look at what they've got for utu. So utu, a verb to repay, pay, respond, avenge, reply, and answer. That last part, answer, I guess kind of stands out to me in the sense of utu's more than just a feeling, it's also an action as well, right? And I'm looking at examples in Te Aka of where it's been used in sentences, and we've got two different ones here. So we got utua, aioi rima, haere ngai o te wiki. So I was paid 5 shillings per week, right? So it's using it in the sense of literally paying, right? Which paints a good picture of it. And we've got another one talking about a waiata by Te Whatanui's people, where they're going out to seek revenge. Utu mō te parikura. And I'm certainly not out here downplaying that aspect of it, because there's a time for war, and there is a time for revenge, and there is a time for justice. I just really want you to understand how broad it can really get. Now fast forward to today, is utu still part of this world? And here's the interesting thing, it didn't disappear. So there's multiple sides of it. So one side of it, in a positive light, it's still here, just in different forms. You see it every day, someone helps you out, you feel like you should return the favour. You might buy you around, you buy the next one. If someone shows up for you, you show up for them. That's utu. Even respect works like that. You give respect, you get it back. If someone disrespects you, there's often a response. The idea of balance is still here, just less formal, less structured, but it hasn't gone away. And once you start noticing it, you see it everywhere. Now that's more of an abstract idea, and I don't know if utu specifically feeds into that, but you could categorize that as utu. A tempting question to ponder that I'm sure a lot of people may think of is, does it have a relationship to higher crime rates within Māori people? Now, easy argument or dismissal of that is I believe that comes more from the higher poverty rates instated with the land loss, etc. Story for another day. What I want to talk about on the flip side of it is te pai oranga, and how it feeds into that restorative justice. So utu also often involves restoring balance through negotiation, compensation, rather than just punishment. Right? It's a different way to look at it than the crime system looks at it. So what is te pai oranga? It's iwi community panels. It's a restorative justice initiative in New Zealand delivered in partnership with iwi Māori and the New Zealand Police. It acts as an alternative to court for low-level offending, utilising tikana and kaupapa. So how it pretty much works, if you're arrested for a certain offence, a low-level offence, the police can look at recommending you for te TPO, te pai oranga. Once that happens, a couple of things need to be in place first. So you've got to admit to your offending, and then once you've done that, it's forwarded to the iwi boards, and from there they discuss alternative punishment ways, right? You say, see, if somebody's out here shoplifting or they've stolen something from you, right? You don't get your item back just by them going to prison or jail or whatever, right? But, so is there much incentive in there for you and for that to happen, you know, excluding insurance and whatnot? But if there's another way to talk about it, another way to work through it, another way to restore balance through you two talking at an iwi panel, and then them repaying you and then preventing further offending, right? It's a different way to look at it, something to ponder. So yeah, utu isn't just revenge, it's balance. It's about keeping things even in relationship, in communities, in life, and understanding that gives you a better understanding of te ao Māori, but also people in general. Because at the end of the day, everyone responds to how they're treated. So if we're trying to flee ignorance, that's part of it. Alright? Just because Māori people call utu doesn't mean that we don't respond to things similarly in our own way. You know? And I think that's an important part of it. That utu is not some barbaric, dead way of living. Right? It's just a system. Understanding things properly, not just to the surface level version. That's what we're going for. Hey, konara. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.